name is Amy Bellander. I've been attending Victory Church for about 2.5 years, and this is my God story. At the age of 34, I thought I wasn't able to have children anymore. The doctors and nurses had all told me I'd never get pregnant again. But God, with His incredible blessings, He had other plans. This was my 4th pregnancy, and this one was very different. I was far sicker, and I just didn't feel quite right for a good portion of it. About 5 months into it, my 9-year-old daughter came to me. I will never forget the look on her face. She looked up at me, took a breath, and said, I was going to die in childbirth. I began to assure her that that wouldn't happen. Things are much safer nowadays. She looked at me right into my eyes and said, Mom, God told me you're going to die. And in that moment, I felt the Holy Spirit impress upon me to listen to her words and take them to heart. I replied with, okay, thank you for letting me know. I'll tell the doctor. I had no idea what I was going to tell the doctor. Around the middle of May, I wasn't feeling very well. And through a process of events, I was diagnosed with a very rare and potentially fatal condition to both mother and baby called HELP. It stands for hemolysis, elevated liver enzymes, and low platelet count. I was in the hospital for 21 days under constant monitoring. The doctor came into my room about 2 weeks into my stay and explained the plan for when it was time for me to give birth. It would be an emergency C-section. He explained the procedures, what all would be in the room. They would have extra blood in the room. That was it. I prayed, God, give me the words to tell my doctor. I interrupted him and I asked if he would just do me a favor and have extra blood in the room. He smiled and said it wasn't necessary. They always have enough. I grinned back and I said, pretend for just a moment that I could be right. It's like a library book. You check it out, it's in the room, you don't need it, you put it back. He folded his arms, cocked his head and said, okay, we will. The morning of June 2nd, 2015 came and I knew it was the day. I called my husband before the nurse had even come in for morning vitals and told him to get to the hospital as quickly and safely as possible. It was absolutely time. In the operating room, Isabella Jasmine was born 2 pounds, 8.9 ounces at 30 weeks and 6 days. Strong, breathing on her own, our mighty little girl. I, on the other hand, fell apart, literally. I lost 5 liters of blood. They called a massive transfusion protocol. I received 6 units of blood, 2 units of FFP, and 2 units of platelets. It took them 2.5 hours to stabilize me, and several times my heart faltered. But God, He was all over this too. Once I started bleeding out, they used the original allotment of blood in the room and immediately called for more. It took 13 minutes for that blood to arrive. In that window, they used the extra blood that I'd requested. It was just enough. I woke up in the ICU and within 24 hours was back in my recovery room. The following morning, the doctor came into my room and closed the door. He stared at me for a moment and he quietly asked, how did you know? I smiled and I said, God told my daughter I was gonna die. Tears came to his eyes and he said, you need to go home and hug your daughter. She saved your life. I've had that request for more blood to be in the room several times and I've always said no. We've never needed it. There was just something about the way you were so confident and so sure. I will never say no again. God saved my life and the life of our little Bella, but we had to be obedient to His prompting. Verinia didn't want to come to me and tell me I was gonna die, but she spoke up when He told her to. I felt crazy for asking the doctor for more blood, but I submitted and I spoke, even when it didn't make sense. Even the doctor listened and he submitted to the will of God. He too had to do his part. When God speaks to us, guiding us to do something, we do best to move with Him. So respond to Him and follow His promptings, even when it doesn't make sense. From that, we can move mountains. From that, our lives can be saved. And that is my God story. I'd love to hear yours.